will be brought and actually placed in the shrine, which will make this shrine a basilica. So here's a question. What is a basilica? What is a basilica? Who can tell me? It doesn't necessarily have to be a place of pilgrimage. It usually is. So I don't think you're not far off. In other words,
Somebody important is there.
yeah. What you're seeing there is perhaps more an effect than a cause. That is, you're seeing, what usually happens at a basilica. That is usually a place of pilgrimage. But the basilica, see, what makes a place a basilica is that more than anything else, this is a place where some special relics are held, where something belonging to a saint is usually kept. So in the future, we can look forward to having right here in Greater Oklahoma City a basilica, because there will be someday Saint Samuel. We'll have that. We'll have this huge church which is going to be built, a shrine. There's a photo somewhere. There's no. They say it's a saying in Spanish. I don't want to offend anyone, but I just want to see the look on some of your face when I say this. Agarre la onda. What does anyone know what that means? I know that our instructors know what it means. It's meant to be. I mean it to be funny, not to be offensive. But see, agarre la onda means it's almost like saying tune in. Tune in. That's what it means. Tune in, which means if your phone's on, shut it off, please. Which means that I have to shut mine off too, because not that anyone will call me at this time, but I'm going to make sure I shut it off. Otherwise, I would be the one most embarrassed. So, having said that, agarre, which is the command form of agarrar, to grab. Agarrar, like grab onto. So the subjunctive, the command form is agarre. Agarre la onda, la onda's the wave, right? La onda is the wave. So agarre la onda means, it literally means grab the wave, but it means tune in. Tune in if you're lost. Agarre la onda. Okay, so incredible plan. This is going to be the final Stanley Road. Notice the body will be there eventually. But where is the heart? Who knows the story of the heart of Stanley Rother? The heart is in Guatemala, Santiago Atitlan. The body still right now. Yeah. The heart was removed from the body, put in a special note for it. There in Guatemala, in Santiago Atitlan, you can actually see the heart if you go there. Amazing thing, but this is not unusual in the history of holy sites, holy places, basilicas, right? And often there are very important relics placed, in different places from the same saint, Saint Teresa. In fact, Saint Teresa was, I don't mean to be gross, but truthfully, her body was dismembered and parts of her sent to many different churches, monasteries, convents. In fact, if you go to Avila in Spain, and you go to the place where Saint Teresa lived, you can see the finger. It's there on display with a ring on it. I know that's not exactly Presbyterian sensibility, but I mention this because it's not unusual, and in Catholic tradition, in fact, it is the rule rather than the exception. You have relics in all the churches. All the altars have relics of some sort. So, as I say, coming soon, there will be this enormous pilgrimage site. The location is on South 89th Street near I-35, South Oklahoma City, as some of you know, before long will be called Santiago de Atitlan, Oklahoma City. It's becoming more and more Hispanic, and as time goes by, you can be sure that many, many, many Hispanic people and people from all over, probably the world, will visit this important site in Oklahoma City. Which brings me back to our subject from the other day. Let me close this door. As you know, I was talking about Mexico City. I think I spent some time talking about the early Mexico City, which was the capital of the Mexicas. Does anyone remember the name of the city that I used several times last time? The old name, the Nahuatl name for the place we now call Mexico City, it's called Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan. And when you talk about Tenochtitlan, or when you talk about Mexico City, here's some beautiful images. There is also, you must talk about, especially with any sort of a group like this one that wants to be informed and wants to know about the history of Hispanic culture, you have to talk about a basilica that is there in Mexico City. In fact, in the Catholic world, no site has more pilgrims than this basilica. What basilica is this? Can you tell me? It is the Basilica of La Virgen de Guadalupe. La Virgen de Guadalupe, visited by millions of people every year. There's the basilica. The old church that you can see in the background here, the old church was actually from 1709. And that wasn't the first church. There were churches before that church, dating all the way back into, we know at least before 1550. The traditional date is 1531, the traditional date of the apparition, which some people believe, others don't believe. But we know that there was a church called, we would call it, it's called an ermita, which means a little chapel, on the hill of Tepeyac. This is the hill of Tepeyac. Already before 1550. How do we know? Because a Franciscan provincial, whose name was Francisco de Bustamante, gave a famous sermon in which he said, I need to tell all of you here a few things that you need to remember. One, that image that you see in that ermita does not perform miracles, so stop going there expecting to see or to experience a miracle. For me, this is, for someone interested in the history of this tradition, this is a fascinating point. He's saying, when you go there and see that image, what that tells me is there is an image. There already was an image. There already was the image we see today, the tilma. It was already there in the 1550s. He said, when you go there and see that image, don't expect that image to perform miracles. So already in the 1550s, there are people who go to that site expecting a miracle. Incredible story already then. So I'm saying, please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, oh, and we know that there were many miracles there. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying something very different. I'm saying already then in 1550, in fact, he said, surely this painting, he calls it, the image, was painted by the famous Indian Marcos. There was a famous painter named Marcos Sipac. One theory is that, in fact, we don't know this, no one knows this, but it's possible that Marcos Zipac, a famous Indian painter from this period, painted some of the image we see below, because we know that that wasn't part of the original image. That tests have shown, all kinds of analysis and so on, that there are parts of the image that were added later. They weren't part of the original part. This bottom, we know this came later. Look, we even have it. Marco Zipac de Aquino. Some people say he probably did paint this part of the image, but we don't know for sure. We don't know. We can't know. But Francisco Bustamante, the Franciscan Provincial, 1556, says, stop going there expecting a miracle. Stop going there expecting that image, which is in that chapel. Stop going there expecting a miracle. I think it's an amazing historical document because it tells us there was an image there. There was a church there. There was an ermita, a little chapel. In fact, we have many different testimonies that say there is already this image, and that people think, many people think, that it has special powers already in the 1550s. So if you should hear someone say, some well-informed person, supposedly, all of this is a 17th century invention, you know that that person doesn't have the slightest idea of what he or she is talking about. That's absurd. There is this debate already in the 1550s about the Virgin of Guadalupe. And I would be willing to say that on this question, the debates about the Virgin of Guadalupe, the importance of the symbol, the importance of the Virgin of Guadalupe, this is the whole history of Mexico. The whole history of Mexico is tied up with the debates about the Virgin de Guadalupe, with many times people who mount a huge crusade say, and as our symbol we have the Virgin of Guadalupe. Here's an example. The man some call El Padre de México, the priest, Don Miguel Hidalgo Costilla, had as the symbol of his group, the group that eventually, because of their rebellion in 1810, that group eventually became the group that led to the independence of Mexico from Spain. Their image, the image they used was the image. There's Padre Hidalgo, look. Padre Hidalgo standing there with the image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. When people rebelled against an anti-clerical government in Mexico in the 1920s, a government that had persecuted the church so severely that they closed all the churches in Mexico except one. I bet you know what church that was. Closed all the churches except one. Those 3 years are called los 3 años de silencio, the 3 years of silence. Why? Because there were no battles. There were no battles in Mexico. The group that rebelled against the government, the Cristeros, one of their symbols was always La Virgen de Guadalupe. Whenever there's a fight between church and state, you always have people in Mexico who take as their symbol of resistance the Virgin of Guadalupe, La Virgen de Guadalupe. Here are some scenes from the movement in the 20s, the Cristero movement. That is, those are the ones who fought against these very strict laws in Mexico prohibiting any kind of open religious observance. For 3 years, closing all the churches in Mexico except one. And there is the symbol of the Virgen de Guadalupe carried by Cristeros. Amazing story. That is part of the history of Mexico City. Mexico City is a city of churches. I'll just name a few other churches, maybe. Let's see if Ignacio can keep up with me. One is the Church of Santo Domingo, the church in Mexico City called Santo Domingo. Now tell me, if you know nothing about this, just by the name, what that name tells you about the church. What does the name of the church tell you about the church? La Iglesia de Santo Domingo. It's Dominican. Of course it's Dominican. It was the headquarters for the Dominicans in Mexico. In fact, the second Archbishop, there's Iglesia de Santo Domingo, which still is, there it is, Iglesia de Santo Domingo, St. Dominic, the home of the Dominicans. The second Archbishop of Mexico City, whose name was Alonso de Montúfar, was a Dominican. And he was really the first member of the clergy on record. When I say on record, there surely were people before him, but he's the first one we have, as of right now, on record, who defends the Ermita in Tepeyac, the chapel on the hill of Tepeyac, as a place where the Virgin Mary can be venerated. The reason the Franciscans objected from the very beginning was that that very site, that place we call Tepeyac today, but in Nahuatl is Tepeyaca, the hill of Tepeyac, which means the hill of the nose. The hill of Tepeyaca, the hill of the nose. This was the place where there was a very, very famous shrine, a shrine to the goddess Tonantzin, the mother goddess. That was destroyed at approximately 1529. That shrine was destroyed. But it was so important that many, many, many Indians, native people, would go there even afterwards. So when the little ermita is built, it immediately catches on and becomes popular with native people. We love this place. It's our church. It's the church of the Virgin of Guadalupe. And Montúfar, who's Dominican, says, let them go there. Let them go venerate the Blessed Mother, the Virgin Mary. It is okay. The Franciscans had said, we don't want them to go there because we're afraid that they'll go back. They'll go back to their old ways, right? Their old traditions, because this is where Tonantzin was worshipped. The Mother Goddess said, this is wrong. It's wrong for us to allow this. First of all, they need to change the name. It shouldn't be called La Virgen de Guadalupe. It should be changed, and people should be discouraged from going there. No avail. Here's the hill of Tepeyac. To no avail. The church grew and grew and grew. Montúfar had the image moved right from, it had been housed, first of all, there, and there's not yet a cathedral of Mexico City. So it's in the residence for the Archbishop. Montúfar hasn't moved to the Ermita. And then he says, we're going to build a bigger church. So they build a little bigger church there at Tepeyac, which lasts a long time. That church was much bigger than the original chapel. It lasted until the early 18th century when it was decided we need to build a bigger church. It is 1708, 1709. They build what is now called the Antigua Basilica, the old Basilica, that's only from the 18th century, which had a lot of problems structurally underneath. As I mentioned last time, so much of Mexico City on lakes or areas that had been lakes before. So the old Basilica always had the problem with either looking like this. It had to be, the engineers found a way to level it using this system of pumps, water pumps that would pump water under it and keep it more level. but there were many problems with it. For many years, when you would go there, I can still remember this vividly, be surrounded by scaffolds, constantly having to redo it. And it wasn't big enough, so they built, there's an old picture, look at that old picture, how slanted it was, the old basilica. So they built a new basilica, and the new basilica is gigantic. It really is, it's big, it's a modern style. Some of you may object to the style, it's clearly it's a style that is very much in keeping with religious architecture, Catholic architecture after the Second Vatican Council.
Is the old one still there?
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, in fact, there are three others. There are three others. But yeah, this was, the old one is still there. That's not that old. Now, I want to ask you this. Does Mexico City have other sites? Are you kidding? Mexico City is full of sites. Last time I talked about the archaeological sites, I'm going to mention another place to you. There's a park in Mexico City. It's called Chapultepec. Chapultepec, from the Nahuatl name Chapultepec. Tepec means the hill. Chapul, the modern Spanish word, the Mexican word. Chapulín means grasshopper. Chapultepec means the hill of the grasshopper. Chapultepec, which is pronounced Chapultepec. Chapultepec in modern Spanish, in modern Mexico. Someone would say, vamos a Chapultepec. That's the central park of Mexico City. The central park of Mexico City is Chapultepec, and we have a whole series of museums, a Museum of Modern Art, the magnificent Museum of Anthropology, which to my mind is one of the greatest museums you can see there. And so also you have in Chapultepec the castle, the old castle of Mexico City. In the mid-19th century, an emperor during the U.S. Civil War, an emperor came from a foreign country, and the French government supported him and made him Emperor of Mexico. What was his name? Does anyone remember? His name was Maximiliano. Maximilian. His name was Maximiliano. He was still in his early 30s. He lived in Austria. However, the French selected him as the person who would be the imperial ruler in Mexico. A group of 900 wealthy people from Mexico City had this project. We need to do something. We need to have a ruler of this country from another place. There's too much corruption here. We need to have a ruler from another place, a person who will defend our values and will be a magnificent leader. Let's see if we can find someone in Europe. Why would they have been so interested in looking for a French-speaking ruler? Who can tell me why it was important that this ruler speak French? Well, the French Revolution is a part of it. It's the French culture after the Revolution, after Napoleon and so on, is thought of as the most elite of cultures. The language of diplomacy, the language of literature, the language of science, the language of culture, moving in on Latin. In Latin America, in many countries, there was this glorification of French culture in the 19th century. Mexico is not an exception. So the elite of Mexico who had studied French, not necessarily in France, but they had studied French, some in France, a rich family, some in France. Okay, we'll bring someone from Europe. So Maximilian really believed that the Mexican people wanted him to come to Mexico and be their ruler. He believed it. Came to Mexico, he was a fish out of water. Really know where he was, but he's okay. Well, I'll do it.
If they want me, I think I can do a good job. He was very young. He was the person who actually was responsible in part for designing what is now called the Paseo de la Reforma. That comes after him. The religious reforms, the social reforms of Benito Juarez comes after Maximilian. In fact, he was responsible for Maximilian's death. He ordered the execution. Benito Juarez ordered the execution of Maximilian, but Maximilian, still in his 30s, comes to Mexico. For a while, things seemed to go well. He had a following. He was very Catholic. A lot of people don't know this about him. In fact, he wanted for there to be this huge avenue, like in later, of course, it is called the Paseo de la Reforma, and it would run from Chapultepec, right, the hill of the Grasshopper, where Central Park is, directly to Basilica, Our Lady of Guadalupe. He had a following. It was limited. It was none of this, of course. What you're seeing now is a giant. It's a mega city, but in the time, Maximiliano, these are very different times, horse-drawn carriages and so on. He had a very young wife. Does anyone know what her name was? Her name was in English Charlotte. Carlota. Carlota was her name in Spanish. She was 26 years old. She's the Emperatriz of Mexico. Some Mexicans still glorify the time of Maximiliano Carlota. An amazing story. Possible, it was possible because the United States was involved in its own civil war. So the Monroe Doctrine at that time, right, really couldn't, we couldn't do anything at that time because the U.S. Civil War is so intense and so bloody that it's not known what will happen, what the result will be. So the 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 French government says we want to expand our empire. We had great land holdings in North America before. We sold a huge territory in the early 19th century to the United States of America. What is the name of that famous deal? The Louisiana Purchase, right, where the United States got about 800,000 miles of land, what we now call the Midwest. Most of that is from the Louisiana Purchase, and as we know later from the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, the West pretty much moves right from Mexico to the United States. So though that history is important to remember in the history of the 19th century. But Mexico City has many, many, many more things to see. Let's see if we can get a picture of the Zócalo and the area right around the Zócalo. Zócalo, as I said last time, is the main square from the Náhuatl word so close, the stone, the cornerstone. There's the Zócalo of Mexico, where you have it's the Plaza of the Constitution. There are many, many elite hotels not far from Zócalo, many elite hotels. The Hilton and so on. You also have some very interesting streets. Let's see if we can move down a little bit this way, and we can go up a street called Donceles. Let's see if we can move it down this way a little bit, and we're going to go over this way to Donceles. I can't believe this map. It's amazing to me because you can see so much here right before we get to Bellas Artes. Let's just move over and see. There's Allende. This is actually right here. The Calle de Tacuba, this is the metro stop called Allende, right here, this place. My favorite restaurant in the world. It's called Café Tacuba. Café Tacuba, an incredible restaurant where I bet you if you just, type in Café Tacuba, you might even have an image of it. It was a mansion. It was a mansion in the colonial era. Now it's this very, very nice restaurant. Not expensive. by our standards at all. But the food is unbelievable. Here's so it's a very, very nice space. Does it remind you a little bit of the Casa de los Azulejos we saw last time, the Sandburns? It's the same era. It's the same era. It's the same rich people who lived then in what was then La Nueva España, right? La Nueva España. In the days of vice-regal Mexico, the days of the period we call the época virreinal, the época of the viceroy. So you see the inside of Café Tacuba. You can't always tell from the outside. It's a little bit like the basilicas in Rome. You see this 17th century facade and say that can't be much. And you go inside and suddenly you start going down and you realize that this is actually an ancient basilica that has a face on it that comes centuries later. Underneath that are layers of history, the medieval period, the ancient period. This is especially true of one of the great basilicas, I think. Well, there are many in Rome, but you see a little bit of this effect in Mexico. You'll see the outside and it won't look like much, but then you walk inside and you discover, wow, this is an amazing place inside. And the depth of it, you see from the outside, it doesn't look that big, but you go in and suddenly it's got all these tables. And on Friday evening, Saturday evening, live music. And the music is not this horrible music you expected. If you listen to local radio stations, no. It actually, what you hear are groups of, which we call, the music is called música de estudiantina. What's an estudiantina? Estudiantina. Doctora. It's like the music that students performed, right, in the colonial period. So they'd be dressed as students in caps and gowns. In Spain, it's very, very, very popular. This kind of music. They're not really mariachis. They remind us of mariachis. Here, these are the traditional outfits of the estudiantina. They perform in Café Tacuba, and what's nice is they're not loud, they're not amplified, and you can have a very nice visit there and have a very nice conversation with your friends. Also in Mexico, even Mexico City, it's more true in the provinces, I think, but in Mexico City, no one cares if you stay in a restaurant for 4 hours. No one cares. The waiter doesn't bother you every 5 minutes. Can I give you some more tea when your glass is down that far? Is there something else I can get you? Was everything okay? I had to tell someone a couple of days ago, please, don't come back until I call you. We're having an important conversation here. I know that sounds very rude. I didn't mean to be that rude. So you have the Estudiantina playing there, at Café Tacuba. You can't tell from the street, but you walk inside, and it is magnificent. Now, the other day, I was talking to one of the participants about Mexico City, and I said, wouldn't you like to go? And she said to me, well, I would, but I would be worried for my safety. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. It doesn't have to be dangerous. It's really not dangerous, especially compared to many American cities. Mexico City is not that dangerous. Probably the worst thing that can happen to you, and I don't think I'm wrong about it, is you could get a purse stolen or a wallet or a passport if you're not paying attention. Or a, cell phone. That's an excellent point. 2 of our students had cell phones this summer, but that was even in Puebla. You have to pay attention. What happens is if you live in Norman, which is such a beautiful city, it's such a safe city, You just know, you lower your guard. You're not used to paying attention. You don't, it's like the people who are at a stoplight and it turns green and they don't move. I'm the only person normally who hums. But you do too. Thank you. Thank you for making me feel great. You don't, when the light turns green, move. It means go. It means go. And here's another thing while I'm on the subject. When the light turns red, it means stop. It doesn't mean keep going or slow down. It means stop, right? You stop and you go. Well, in Mexico City, you have to pay attention. But I offered this tip to one of our STAR participants. I said, look, if you really feel unsafe, number one, when you're walking down in Mexico City, in the central areas, always walk with 2 or 3 people. It's much better for you, always. You go off exploring by yourself, you don't know where you are. But if you're with 2 or 3 friends and there are people, there will be people around, you're much safer, you're better. You keep your wallet, your money stashed away, your cell phone, you keep them in pockets that are tight, or in something that you can zip, and you're going to be fine. Now at night, here's my best advice for night. Go to the hotel, all the hotels, of any level of acceptability, have their own cabs. The cab takes you where you're going, and they pick you up at the time you say. You say, I want to be picked up at 11:30 p.m. At 11:30 p.m., that cab's going to be there. But that person is not going to rob you. They work for the hotel. If they rob you, they'll be run out of town. They can't do that. They won't have a job. That's the best way. If you're worried, and I think that it's always good to be cautious. When you're in a city you don't know. So use the cab, go in groups, and most of all, go to the cultural places, like Café Tacuba, Casa de los Azulejos, Chapultepec Park during the day. Avoid the dangerous areas. Muchas gracias. Any questions? Any questions? You know, you got me on that, but I want you to know this. If you could see the park and see how big it is and imagine the weather there, you're probably going to see a lot of things. Many times, toponyms, the names of places are based on some feature, almost always. For example, we lived near a place in California called El Cerrito, which is El Cerrito. And if you just look out the window, there was like, out of nowhere, it's this hill that's right there. It's amazing how you would see it clearly, that landmark. And anyone from that area knows where that is because you can see the hill right there. That's El Cerrito. Sometimes the place will be called, like in California, El Cajon. El Cajon means the Box Canyon. There's a Box Canyon there. Los Altos, a place where there's something called Sierra Morena, Sangre de Cristo mountains. They do they look red at night in the sunlight as if they were the blood of Christ, Sangre de Cristo. You have time for one more snack before you guys. Anyone else just come up and ask me, okay? This is the these are not mariachi. Mariachis have a completely different outfit. They have different instruments. For one thing, they have horns. Mariachi comes from the French word marera, which means marriage. Mariachi comes from the French word marera, which means marriage.
You love it. You don't talk about it. You don't love it. I saw your girl. And you're like, I see the Bill's history. You're such a good woman.
I know.